And it's one of the few products that I can actually safely say that I would actually recommend it to anybody in any industry. My name's Rohan Manuel. I'm currently the project manager for a company called Work Healthy Australia. And in that capacity, I'm looking after all things IT. So Work Healthy Australia is an Australian-based company specialising in health. My role, and I've only just started with the organisation, but I've got a dual role. So one is to look after all things IT, and specifically to look after the application landscape, hardening the environment and reducing risk. The other part is on strategy. So both business and IT strategy, and to look at how we can grow the organisation and what opportunities exist both from an IT perspective and a commercial perspective. IT is, the core to the business, in that all of the metadata that's collected at our client sites are done so on a custom created application. That data is then brought back securely to site, where it's then interpreted, used to generate reporting, and has a degree of analytics applied to it. Yeah, I've actually been using ManageEngine since 2021, and I've used ManageEngine in health as well as transport and logistics and construction. And whilst the industries are different, the problems are similar. Certainly in, from a ManageEngine perspective, I've used ServiceDesk Plus, I've used OpManager, and I've used Endpoint Central. And all of these were used to tackle similar issues. And similarly with OpManager, another product that I've used quite heavily. With that one, same thing. So same sort of experience from a customer perspective, where we're able to demo the product, then walk it through and have somebody help us to implement. And that one was actually quite interesting because I needed to use that product in an environment where I was understaffed. So I had ServiceDesk people that were doing infrastructure type roles, and having the OpManager tool was quite good because it allowed me to take people that didn't have the skill sets and provide them with a tool that provided good real-time reporting. And that enabled them to make some very good decisions as to where to put their effort, where to start looking, where to tackle issues like storage, and to do so before it became a problem. So that did actually change the perception within IT, and certainly the perception that the business had of IT, because prior to that, IT was seen as a very reactionary department, where a problem would happen and then somebody would call and then they would fix. It went from that to being a department where we would detect a problem, we would resolve a problem, and would report on the fix back to the business, which meant that there was less downtime, which meant that the business had a lot more trust in IT, that we knew what we were doing, and that they were quite happy to invest in the product because they actually saw the value of having that product. And then the other one is Endpoint Central. And this one was actually quite useful, where I had an organization that had a on-prem data center, and there was around about 300 odd servers. A number of them were running 2012, which is an old redundant operating system. Now, the organization was heavily into risk and compliance, but was also risk adverse. So these older devices were sitting around forever and a day, and they should have been patched and supported by SCCM. However, that product failed, and the expertise to drive that product also left the organization. So when I came into that organization, I had a perfect storm where I had a lot of old product and an organization that was risk adverse, but also had a real problem to solve. And with Endpoint Central, once again, it was a very easy product to demo, and then a very easy product to then implement, and I guess with the support, it made it even easier to train people and upskill people. which then meant that we were able to target our server fleet, roll out agents to get some real-time metrics on what patches they had, what sort of capacity they had, and then it helped us to understand our environment, which was not documented. And whilst it should have been, that's one of the bugbears with IT, where typically the people that build stuff, they do a great job of building, but they do a horrendous job of documenting. So this actually helped mature our documentation, because it provided data on the construct of our servers, the patch level of our servers, and that combined with OpManager gave us some really good metrics on what we were dealing with, which allowed us to take a very targeted approach, pinpoint the highest risk, and start to take action. With the ServiceDesk Plus, that was a really good tool to start to automate some of our processes, and that was one place where I deployed that was Kane Construction. Prior to that, they actually didn't have a service desk tool, so the people on service desk had to take phone calls. They had to then transpose that onto a spreadsheet. They had to take emails and then transpose that onto a spreadsheet. And then after that, they would then start to fix problems. Now, what I found was 9 times out of 10, they weren't documenting the issues. They were just taking a call and fixing there and then. So I had no metrics on how much effort was being expended, but I knew that they were busy. But how do you make a case to an organization when you've got no metrics? So by putting in ServiceDesk Plus, that enabled the staff members to be able to send straight to the tool to create tickets, the tickets to then be logged, the time from ticket coming in to completion to be documented, the resources that were allocated to the task, which gave me metrics on what types of issues we're having, how many of those issues we're having, and how much resources being utilized. And the net result was I was able to bring in additional resources, because it did show a gap. And it showed that in addition to a gap, there were a couple of staff members that were working well above an 8-hour day to try to compensate. Whereas doing this, it was quite easy to say, well, overworked, under-resourced, we need resourcing in this point to balance things out. So I think it was a great result to not only have something where it improved our documentation, but have something to make a good case to the business as to the actual ins and outs of IT and the stresses that the department was having. And the overall result was the IT staff members' stress levels came down, because they saw that the business was actually taking action to help reduce their stress by bringing in more people. And they were able to get a lot more structured in their workday, and it took out a lot of the ad hoc responses, where they could then, as opposed to taking a call, they could review the tickets that have come in, look for like tickets, prioritize their day based on common issues, take those issues out of the equation, and then come back, which overall was a fantastic result. Service Manager, ServiceDesk Plus, I used that in an organization where they were using ServiceNow. Both products are good, but that was purely from a cost and process perspective. The ManageEngine solution was much more cost effective, but also simpler to drive, which meant that the staff were able to understand it in a more rapid timeline, and also to work with it. In addition to that, one of the things that I liked most was the fact that, in addition to being able to trial the product, when we went down the path of procurement, we had somebody walk us through and also provide technical resources, both remotely and on site, to help set the product to work, but also to give staff tutoring and mentoring so that they could drive the product well. And I think that's a missing gap with a lot of products, where somebody will sell you a product and then you have to unwrap it and use it. Whereas this one, it was a completely I guess, a nice sort of process all the way through. I'm actually very impressed. Traditionally, like I've worked for a number of different organizations or worked with a number of different organizations, and typically you get a product and then you're left to implement and to get the most out of it. With ManageEngine, it's different in that the staff are actually willing to help you solve problems. And yes, the product's great, but it's also the additional support that I find extremely good. Having people that you can send a message to at any time of the day, having them respond back, having them be able to remote, having them physically be able to come on site and workshop options and solutions, I think is great. And also having that consistency across the platform. So every single product that I've used so far, it's always been the same approach, the same sort of methodology, the same sort of deliverables, and the same result, where it's at the end of the day, I've walked away going, you know what, value for money. And ultimately, in the organizations that I go into, when I go back to the business, I need to show results. With ManageEngine, it's actually very easy to show a result. There's an expenditure for a product, there's an implementation for the product, and there's a tangible result. So I guess one of the things I like is the customization aspect, where I can drill down, look at switching architecture, look at how they've been deployed, look at the patch levels, monitor the performance of multiple network pieces of technology to understand load and stresses, but also then to overview that and have another view where I can look at the server infrastructure, the virtual platforms, and in some instances, remote data centers and their performance. I found the combination of having both of those elements, network and server, in the one platform, and having that data available, it's so much easier than some of the other toolings where I've had a dedicated network product. For me, I've used ManageEngine in a number of different organizations. It's always been a tool that's come in and assisted me. The product, the people, and the processes have all benefited me. And it's one of the few products that I can actually safely say that I would actually recommend it to anybody in any industry. Certainly the industries that I've worked in, but anywhere where technology is being utilized and where you've got an environment that performance matters, yes, I would recommend this product.